Well, good afternoon, everyone. As you know, we had a lunch with the president. He did Q&A with our members for about an hour, underscored the importance of accomplishing for the American people the first comprehensive tax reform in 31 years, which we fully intend to accomplish in the next few days. The Budget Committee will be meeting at 2:30 to take a step that is required to move the process forward, and we're optimistic that step will be taken. I'm going to have to run down to the White House for a meeting that I gather Senator Schumer and Leader Pelosi are not coming to, so I will not be here very long, but in order to allow for a couple of questions, I'll be happy to throw it open just for a minute, and then I'm going to call on Senator Hatch if he's here.
Right behind
Yeah.
Yeah, right here.
Nancy?
How do you address all of the concerns that some of these GOP holdouts have simultaneously without making this bill too costly?
It's a challenging exercise. Think of sitting there with a Rubik's Cube trying to get to 50. And we do have a few members who have concerns, and we're trying to address them. And we know we would not be able to go forward until we get 50 people satisfied, and that's what we're working on.
Leader
Yeah.
With Leader Schumer and Leader Pelosi not going to the meeting, are you confident that if they don't fully buy in, that you can move a bill to keep the government open with only Republican votes?
Well, let me say, I never refused to go to a meeting that President Obama called, a bipartisan meeting. It never occurred to me that I could just say to President Obama, I'm not showing up. That strikes me as a lack of seriousness about the matter before us, which is the funding of the federal government of the United States for the rest of this fiscal year.
But what about
So you'll have to ask them why they think it's appropriate to refuse to meet with the President of the United States over something as significant as how we're going to fund the troops and all the other needs that are addressed by the spending decisions we make every year.
Mr. Leader, it seems a CR.
Do you think that some senators are letting the perfect be the enemy of the good or the good enough on this tax bill?
Look, yeah, I'm not going to criticize individual members. Look, big, complicated bills like this are challenging. You all have watched us wrestle with this sort of thing in the past. It's always difficult, but everybody has an opportunity to weigh in. And some members are still weighing in, and we're hoping to satisfy them all. And with that, I'm going to turn over the podium to the chairman of the Finance Committee, Senator Hatch.
Oh, dear.
Well, I'm happy to be with all of you. I have to say this is an opportunity for the first time in 31 years to really get a tax bill that could help turn this country even further ahead. I wish we could get rid of the partisan politics. I wish we could get both Republicans and Democrats together. This is a time when we ought to. It's an important time for our country. We've come a long way on the Finance Committee to get the bill this far, and I believe we're going to be successful. I just wish we had more bipartisan support. As you all know, I've worked all my 40 years, plus years, to try and bring people together on both sides. And I've never seen it worse than it has been the last few years. Hopefully we can break through with this bill. And I call on my Democrat friends, let's work together and let's get this done.
Well, I hope with regard to the perfect being the enemy of the good, I hope you'll ask Dr. Barrasso about an inspirational reading he gave us at the approval of the Constitution by Benjamin Franklin in that regard. Maybe he'll repeat it for you. To me, a yes vote on this tax bill means voting yes to a growing economy, more jobs, higher wages, and more take-home pay. A no vote, which is what our Democratic colleagues so far are telling us they're going to cast, is a vote for stagnant wages, fewer jobs, flat wages, and accepting the idea that American jobs will continue to go overseas because of our self-destructive business tax code. So So this is for the doers and the dreamers and the hardworking American families who want a piece of the American dream. This is our opportunity. This is our moment to deliver to them an opportunity then to pursue their dreams, and we intend to follow through and accomplish that.
Yeah, it's already been stated, but this really is a generational opportunity, and it couldn't come at a more important time. If you look at the better part of the last decade, what we've seen in this country up until the last couple of quarters is 1.5% to 2% growth. Sluggish, anemic, slow growth, which too many people, I think, have come to accept as the new normal. And it doesn't have to be that. This country is the greatest economy in the world. We can do better than 2% growth. And what that means for American families is most of them haven't seen a pay raise in a long, long time, because wages during that period have been absolutely flat. And so we have an opportunity to do something about that. The tax reform bill that the Senate will be voting on later this week doubles the standard deduction, doubles the child tax credit, lowers rates for families in this country. The average family in this country, typical family of 4, combined annual income of $73,000 will get a tax cut of $2,200. And we also know that according to the analysis that's been done, that wages are going to increase as a result of a growing, more vibrant, more robust economy where we're creating better paying jobs. And so wages are going to go up about $4,000. The Tax Foundation says it's going to create 1 million new jobs, and we're going to see a 3.7% growth in the economy over the course of the next decade. Those are the types of things that we want to see happen for the typical American family. That's good for jobs, that's good for wages, that's good for their standard of living, that's good for their quality of life, and that's really what this tax reform effort is all about. We have an opportunity to get it across the finish line. Of course, as Senator Cornyn pointed out, we have some issues that we're working through with individual members, all of which are valid, but all of which in the end, I think, are overcome by just the compelling logic and rationale for doing something really meaningful and really important for the American people. And that's getting this economy growing at a faster rate, creating better paying jobs, better wages for them and their families.
Well, it was good to have the President join us today at our Policy Committee lunch. He talked about the fact that consumer confidence in America is at an all-time high. And part of that, when you try to grow the economy, is due to the regulatory relief that's come out of this administration. And the next step is the tax relief that we're working on. And we as a conference are unified on the efforts to actually make taxes simpler and fairer, lower rates for people across the country. That's the way you have a strong and healthy economy. That's the way you allow for people to keep more of their own hard-earned paychecks. What bill we are proposing is one that clearly keeps the Republican Party promises to the American people. We'll lower rates. We'll have a simpler and fairer system. It will deal with the issues that Americans face every day. It will help grow the economy and keep businesses and investments in America. Additionally, it eliminates the mandate that everyone must buy government-mandated health insurance. Home in Wyoming, over the past Thanksgiving recess, I continued to hear about the cost of the mandate, the taxes of the mandate, the burden of the mandate on people's lives. Across the country, of those people paying the fine, and there are millions and millions, 8 out of 10 of them have a gross family income of less than $50,000. It is a direct tax on the American people, on hardworking Americans, and as part of what we're doing with tax relief, we will eliminate that as well.
You want to answer a question or two? Sure. Senator Hatch said he'll answer some questions.
I'm just,
Senator Cornyn, can I ask you about the CR? It looks like talks with the White House aren't going, to the point where you'll get a CR.
Well, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about keeping the government open when the Democrats take themselves out of the picture. But
If you need a CR, sir, how long will it be, and what will the timeline for that be?
I don't think we know the answer to that yet. We're going to do what it takes to keep the government up and running until we can reach an agreement.
Given it was a presidential tweet that triggered the unwillingness for everybody to get into a room today, are things like that helpful given how tenuous these negotiations are, a very complex set of issues?
I assume as responsible adults that we're all responsible for our own behavior. And I can't imagine why the Democratic leader and Ms. Pelosi decided to simply not do their job. And so they can blame it on the tweet. I'm not really familiar with the tweet that you're referring to, but there's all sorts of reasons to say no, but what they need to do is step up and say yes to doing their job and keeping the government up and running. The majority leader is exactly right. This is the bill with which we fund the pay for the troops who are now serving in harm's way in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, just as one example. It's completely irresponsible to just turn your back on your responsibilities, and so I hope they'll reconsider.
Senator, why the time frame on this? You can call this once in a generational opportunity, but 1986 took the better part of a year to pass it. There was widespread bipartisan support.
Well, I'm going to ask Senator Thune to complete the answer, but this is completely an illusion. We've been working on tax reform for years, literally for 30 years since the 1986 tax reform. We've had 70 hearings before the Senate Finance Committee, and of course a lot of working groups, white papers, and the like. So a lot of work has gone into this. As a matter of fact, some of the very provisions which Senator Schumer and Senator Wyden have complained about, we have plucked from their own legislative proposals. So there's more than a little hypocrisy here, given some of the rhetoric they're using. I don't know if you want to say. Well, that did come up during the discussion. It's important to all of us that consumers not see a spike in their premiums. Unfortunately, they've seen a 105% increase in their premiums since 2013 anyway, but we want to try to get premiums moving down, not up, and Alexander Murray seems to be something that they've talked to the White House about and the President is open to as part of a larger negotiation.
Senator Cornyn, Republicans support, and would you support having a fix for dreamers in the spending deal at the end of the year if it includes border security?
I think President Trump did the right thing by sending this to Congress. This is Congress's responsibility. That's a mistake that President Obama made, trying to do this all by himself. We are in the midst of negotiations now with Senator Durbin, Senator Schumer, and others to try to come up with a solution. I think the solution is fairly obvious. It's important that we get it done. I told Senator Durbin yesterday that we could do it anytime he was ready to sit down and negotiate. We could do it before the end of the year. We could do it after the first of the year. We know that March is an important time frame when the benefits of the DACA begin to go away. And so I think there's a great opportunity for us. Pardon me?
You want to keep it separate in the spending bill? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it deserves its own consideration together with some enforcement and border security measures. And I think that's a good solution to the problem. Please ask Senator Thune some questions.
Senator Thune, don't Republicans and President Trump need Democrats, or the Democrats need Republicans in this instance to keep the government open? Historically, that's the way these votes have gone, debt ceiling, government spending, and so forth.
Well, we've had an experience with government shutdowns, and they weren't good. They weren't good for the country. They weren't good for Congress because people saw us as failing to do our job. So I don't think a threat of shutting down the government just because you're not getting something you want is a good idea. We need to keep working together and coming up with
Why
an
can't
answer.
your side deliver the votes if you have majorities in both the House and Senate?
Well, we need 60 votes in the Senate to close off debate. And so we have, with 52 Republicans, we can't do it by ourselves. So that's a short answer. Thanks.